And three, there it is. What's good, everyone out in Radio Land? The finest podcast this side of the Mississippi is back. It is the one, the only, This Uncanny Earth with your hosts. Me, Robert Solomon, down at the bottom, representing. Above me, my two co-hosts. The man who knows what you're thinking, and he probably doesn't think like you think. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our very own old man Spider. He's old, and he's a man. Together, he's the old man.
Those are facts. Those are facts.
Next to him is the young man. He's the young man. He's got a young man face, and he's staying young. We don't know how he does it. He's got a secret anti-aging serum that he keeps locked in his basement. We don't know what it is. We want to know.
Locked in my third eye.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one, the only. It's Steven. Steven and Spider, the two S's of the group. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight on this? I was hoping it was going to be warmer, but it's actually cold night because it's been warm, but now all of a sudden it's cold again night.
It did snow abruptly for some weird reason
It did.
in Ohio out of nowhere. After having 70-degree weather for the last 4 days.
Beautiful. Love it.
But doing good. I have a quick set of announcements before we get going here. For anybody who's interested in small town music and things that is not famous yet, despite all of this time, I have a new album coming out on June 5th of this year. June 5th, 2026. There will be a listening party on Twitch where I'll be playing the entire album as long as Twitch and my distributor don't think that I'm breaking my own copyright and shut it off. It could happen. I'm going to have to send some emails. But there will be a listening party June 2nd on Twitch, and you can hear the entire album start to finish without interruption. And then you can hang out with me before and after for some fun and some frivolity and whatever else.
So do I have to hang out with you? Can I just hear the album and like leave? Do I have to like be there before and after? Like the album's going to be fantastic, but I don't really want to talk to you after or before. I just want to hear the album.
Like if you sue yourself for copyright, who has to pay that?
I'm just going to transfer a few bucks from this pocket to the other pocket.
There you go.
And that's done. Anything from you, Steven, before we get into everything we got going on?
Just finished Resident Evil 9. Gotta find something else to focus on now.
Bro, I haven't even got past like I'm still in Grace's second stage, so I don't even know what's going on. I don't have time. Bigfoot's been traipsing around Portage County. And I hear it's supposedly making its way through Summit. So if we see anything, we will 100% keep you guys updated because I do have kind of a weird towpath trail by the house. It is almost a wasteland out here. So yeah, he's been roaming through. A lot of people, some people say it's a hoax. Some people say it's legit. Until I see one, it is what it is. You know, like there's really nothing else you can do but go off of hearsay until you actually see one. So that's what's been going on over here in the Ohio side of things. We have a lot of weird things like this always happen in Ohio. They don't happen nowhere else. Ohio always has something like this. Always. Like a weird UFO will be over a power plant in like 2 weeks. So if that happens, remember that I harken back to this episode and be like, man.
3 weeks.
Robert said it. He said 3. I say 2.
I'm going to up you 1 week.
You can up me 1 week. So we'll place bets. We'll place bets, see who wins. Spider's gonna have to take a week. If I take 2, he's got to take 1, and you have to take 3. Yeah. So this is, I mean, it's Ohio, and it is 2026. So that's not out of the far-fetched realms of possibilities, as it would seem. Tonight we are talking about the SS. What's the name of it, Spider?
The SS Baychimo. Okay. It had another name beforehand, and we're gonna try. Once we get into the history of this.
This is what I pay the big bucks for, is to hear him speak other languages that I know he can't speak.
So much fun.
I'm terrible with any language that isn't English, and I'm not great with English as it is. So
he's going to end up talking about some sort of man loving.
Yeesh.
Ooh, not this episode.
So this is the 3rd episode in our series of ghost ship episodes. And this one was interesting to me because it's not a traditional ghost ship. It doesn't have paranormal things attached to it, but it is kind of a strange preternatural ability to stick around and show up where you least expect it. As mentioned, this is the SS Baychimo. A little bit of history first. It was a steel-hulled 1,322-ton cargo steamer. It was built in 1914 in Sweden. The original name of the ship. Let's see how well I do this. It looks like Anger Management is what the name looks like, but that's not what it is. Angermanolfen. The Angermanolfen, I think.
Angermanolfen.
You're not talking about the Angermanolfen.
It looks like Anger Management to me.
Angermanolfen. It's the Angermanolfen.
But it was launched again in 1914 in Gothenburg, Sweden, for a German company, the Baltic Reederei GmbH. Literally, that last word is GmbH. How do you pronounce that? I don't know. Of Hamburg.
That's wild. That means something totally different. They have a lot of raves on that one, I bet.
Yeesh.
There's multiple jokes.
I'm looking for the episode. Spider just speaks foreign languages the whole time. Sorry. Go ahead.
The ship was 230 feet long. It was powered by what was known as a triple expansion steam engine, which I believe was pretty well advanced at the time. It had a top speed of 10 knots, which is about 12 miles per hour. So not the speediest thing in the ocean. And it was used on trading routes between Hamburg and Sweden until World War I. After that, it was passed to the United Kingdom as part of Germany's reparations, because after they lost that war, they had to give up a bunch of their infrastructure and a bunch of their shipping and things to other countries because of shipping losses that they had caused those other countries. So it was then acquired by the Hudson's Bay Company in 1921. They renamed it the Baychimo, and it was based in Ardrisson, Scotland. And the ship completed 9 successful voyages along the north coast of Canada, visiting trading posts and collecting pelts. Now, before we get too far into this, I kind of know the answer because I didn't know anything about this until I started researching it. Did either of you, have you ever heard of the SS Baychimo? Steven?
No, not before you told us about it.
Rob?
That's a big negative. I heard about it today as I was after you told me about it and I read about it, sure, but no, not before that. Because that wasn't something popular growing up in high school. All the guys weren't starting to go, bro, did you hear about the SS Baychimo? I was like, man, I can't believe it. It was in Gothenburg, Sweden for me. You know what the name was? It was made by the Lindenholmens. No, it wasn't a big thing.
An interesting story in how I came across this, because I didn't know about it ahead of time either until I started looking into it. I was looking up because I hadn't decided what ship we were going to talk about on my episode. I was still kind of lagging behind. Both of you guys were pretty well said, oh, we're going to have the Dutchman, we're going to have the Mary Celeste. So I'm thinking, what am I going to talk about that's not been done to death? And I initially was going to go with, there's an aircraft carrier that's decommissioned, but you can go and you can visit it and you can see it, and it's supposed to be haunted. But it's not like a ghost ship like Lost at Sea. And I saw that on an episode of I don't remember what it was. Maybe Expedition Unknown, maybe with that Josh Gates show, I think. But while I was looking that up, I saw this come up. There was one of those it was somebody's reel that's made with partial AI and things about, did you know that in 19 blah, 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 a ship disappeared off the coast of whatever. And this one was about
just
this.
like that too. Just like that.
A lot of them are like that. So I looked them up. I looked it up and I discovered that it was a real thing. And following through, it's pretty fascinating. It is pretty fascinating. Like I said, when it got acquired by Hudson's Bay Company in 1921, it had 9 successful voyages before its first abandonment. Okay? It had more than one. On October 1st in 1931, it had just finished a trading run, and it was loaded with a cargo of furs. It traded with the Inuit in that part of Canada and along the northern coasts there. It got trapped in the ice. The crew briefly abandoned it. They traveled over a half-mile of ice to the town of Barrow to take shelter for 2 days. By the time they came back, they had to chase the ship down because it had broken through the ice on its own. So they chased it down, got back on board. So abandoned once, then recaptured. It got stuck again a week later on October 8th. This time it was really stuck. It was a lot more thoroughly stuck. They couldn't get it out. So on the 15th, the company sent aircraft to retrieve the crew. 22 members of the crew said, all right, we out. We're not sticking around. We've done this once before. We're leaving. 15 remained behind to wait out the winter if necessary because they didn't want the cargo to go to waste. They didn't want the ship to just go to waste. They thought, you know what, it broke through once, it can break through again. So they built a wooden shelter some distance away. And they stayed there until at least late November. November 24th, a big blizzard rolls in. And after the blizzard dies down, they come back out. No Baychimo. The ship was gone. It had broken itself free of the ice again and was nowhere to be seen. So they thought, you know what? Must have sunk in the storm. So if you're the crew or anybody who works for the company and you're seeing this ship get stuck twice, 3 times now, and then just disappear, are you going out to look for it? Or are you thinking, you know what, that's a loss, forget it. We don't need the stuff that bad. It's done for. Rob, what do you think?
So a few factors are going to play into this. First, where am I sat at economically? Am I going to make good money if this cargo is retrieved? Am I going to see a dime of this? Is there going to be an extra on my paycheck? I'm not just going to look for it for the love of the game. If anything has taught us these past 3 episodes is that the sea is a fickle mistress and she will 100% lose you. And if the ship's lost and it just keeps getting lost, at that point, you got to cut your losses. Now, if I am in fact seeing somewhat of a pay increase or I will be rewarded for getting this ship back to where it needs to go, by all means, yes, because that's how I make my living. But if I'm not going to be, if I'm not going to be refunded my time and effort and it's just, hey, go find it or else. Okay, or else. There you go. What are you going to do? Fire me? Fine. Because at some point, it's still the sea. You know, the sea isn't something that's easy to navigate, as, you know, we've seen in our Ghost Ship episodes previous and prior. Also, how many stories have you guys heard about things getting lost out to sea? People getting lost out to sea. People getting trapped and ate by sharks. I'll take my chances on land. Thank you. But like I said, it would vary in if I'm getting paid for it or if I'm not getting paid for it.
This is also a really tough spot in the world for ships to get stuck because we all know some of the disasters that happened looking for the Northwest Passage. There's been stories of cannibalism and different things from crews that have gotten stuck up there. So the Terror and I think it was the Erebus or I don't remember what the other one was that got stuck. Those were masted ships. But Steven, what do you think? You think that the ship gets lost twice already? Is it worth hunting down again?
It depends on how valuable it is and what kind of resources were in it and if you cared about the people that were on the ship or not.
Well, this is like the ship, there's no people on it now. All the people had come up to go on shore and were staying in a shelter to wait out the blizzard and to wait for everything to thaw. Yeah. And by the time they came back to it, the ship was just gone. No crew, no passengers. It was just gone.
Yeah, I think I would probably want to go look for it, if for no other reason than just to satiate my curiosity, like what happened to it. You know, I wouldn't want to spend too long on it, but I would want to figure out, like, did someone steal my ship? Did it get tossed around in the storm? Is it at the bottom of the ocean? What happened?
I think a big thing to not forget is, like he said, you're dealing with some elements. I mean, it's not like it was with with the Mary Celeste that was just like chilling basically in pretty calm waters. You're dealing with stuff that gets stuck in ice. Ice means icebergs. Ice also means bad temperatures, cold temperatures. You're going to be traipsed around out there, gloves, the whole nine. So I get your enthusiasm, but at some point you have to say, okay, is this worth my life? Because of the situation that is in that area. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Barrow.
YOLO.
Right. I've never been to Barrow, but I have a cousin who is a visiting nurse. So she goes all around the United States, and they lived in Alaska for a hot minute. And she told me stories about Barrow, Alaska. It's crazy, like 6 months type, darkness. So imagine trying to traipse for your ship out in like darkness, and it's like 2 p.m. No, you better pay me.
Now, getting back to the story here, again, they figured after the blizzard, the ship must have broken up, sunk in the storm.
Yep.
A few days later, however, a native seal hunter told them that he'd seen the ship about 45 miles away from their position. So the 15 men, they proceeded to track the ship down again. But they decided, you know what? There's no way it's going to last another one of these. We're going to cut our losses. So they went on board. They retrieved most of the valuables and the furs and things from the cargo hold to transport by air. And then they left it. They're like, you know what? That's it. We're done. We're done with this.
Yeah, because you got to let people know, like, there were airplanes. This is what, 30s? So yeah, there
are pictures too.
There were planes.
There are pictures. The thumbnail for this episode is the actual Baychimo in 1931. So it did not sink as they expected. And over the next several decades, the ship kept showing up. People tried to go through it multiple times, didn't have the resources, couldn't deal with the weather, different things, and nobody was able to successfully recapture it and bring it back to a port. The last recorded sighting was by a group of Inuit in 1969, 38 years after it was abandoned, and it was stuck fast in the ice of the Beaufort Sea between Point Barrow and Icy Cape off the northwestern Alaskan coast. After that, it hasn't been seen again that we know of, so they have no idea. They've presumed that it has sunk by now. But let's go through some of these sightings, because these were pretty interesting. Now, I do have on my phone, I meant to put it into the room, and I didn't get to it today, a photo of the ship from the front. It's pretty impressive. I'm going to hold my phone up so you guys can kind of see. That's the ship.
Oh, nice.
The bow of the ship. So it wasn't huge, but it was a big deal. It was a big ship for the time. So again, a few days after it first disappeared, they found it 45 miles away. After several months, it was spotted about 300 miles to the east. It's quite a bit of distance.
Yeah, it's not too shabby of a sail.
And wasn't it like a sailboat, or was it a big?
It's a steamship.
It's a steamship.
Okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite tell.
It's a steel steamship. So it's got a lot of weight to it. It's got a lot of hold.
Got a lot of heft.
Yeah. In January of the following year, the ship was seen floating peacefully near the shore by a man named Leslie Melvin, who was traveling to Nome, Alaska, with his dog sled team. A few months after that, it was seen by a company of prospectors. In March of 1933, it was found by a group of... This is a tribe of Alaskan natives called the Inupiat. I think I got that right. And they actually boarded the ship. Let's take a look here. I had to get off my article here. They boarded it, and they were trapped for 10 days by a freak storm that came up.
Saw that.
Now, before we get into more of the sightings, then the question I have is by this point, maybe you might have heard that there's a ship that keeps coming back and floating around out there. I would think it would be local news across the area.
A legend, even.
So you go aboard thinking, "Oh, this is cool. This is interesting. Let's go check this thing out." And then you get stuck there. Are you starting to think that there's something weird about this? Are you starting to think that there maybe is paranormal things going on? Are you starting to think there's a curse?
Yep.
Steven, you're saying yes?
100%.
Now, what do you do?
That's how your mind is going to work.
What do you do in that case? If you assume that maybe this ship is cursed, that it keeps coming back, it's unsinkable, and now we're stuck here, what happens?
Well, at that point, you got to stop looking for it before you put yourself in danger. And if it's already too late and you've already put yourself in danger, then you just got to, well, kiss your butt, I guess.
Rob, what do you think?
Nah, it's not cursed. I wouldn't even think it was cursed. I'd be like, it'd be more of like, yeah, this makes sense. This is something that would happen to me. This is it. This is, yeah, I get it.
So
it's God's teaching me a lesson. I'm meant to be alone. I need to wander around for a bit and get my bearings. I wouldn't think of it as a curse, only because it's a ship. It's just a ship. It's water in a ship. You know, a ship's going to go where a ship's going to go. And if it doesn't have a passenger, it's just going to run aimlessly. And that's what I'm going to think. I'd be like, yeah, this has been running aimlessly. I'd be more worried about like denizens and like creatures inside of the ship that might have gotten into the ship in certain parts in certain places. You know, you might end up getting a polar bear in that bad boy. I'm not saying you would, but that's how my mind will work. Or like wolves or something in there like that. I'm not going to think it's cursed, but I'm not, at the same time, I'm going to be real like paranoid of hearing, you know, sounds. You know, it's not something that if I saw one going by right now, which would be next to impossible because I don't live near a body of water like that.
That'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah, 100%. I would just be like, have a good time, you know, because first of all, I don't want to get tetanus because a ship like that's going to have a lot of rust on it. I mean, I'm good on my tetanus shots. Doesn't mean I still want to get tetanus. But for me, I think it would be more of just, I know it's not cursed. I know it's just wandering aimless because it doesn't have a crew, right? And there's no paranormal event locations or events that happen on that ship. It was like there was a random ghost. It wasn't like there was a random crew that just disappeared. We know where the crew went. The crew left it, and that's it. You know what I mean? And that's it. Like, seriously, you know, if it was like the Flying Dutchman where there was a legend behind it, or like the Mary Celeste where the crew just disappeared and everything was still normal, I might be more akin to be like, okay, maybe something supernatural happened in this aspect or in this habitat. However, because the crew left it, knowingly left it, it recorded that being left, my brain's just going to say, yeah, of course it's going to float around. And then one day you're not going to see it anymore because it's probably going to go to the bottom of the ocean. All it takes is one good rock, one good iceberg. Boom. It's already in that part of the world as it is. A storm washes it ashore somewhere and somebody ends up salvaging it. You know, that's something else to think of. So there's a lot of things, but it doesn't have the air of mystery that the other two had. So for me, I'm not going to think it's cursed.
The interesting thing about it really is the environment, because I think a more serious effort to recover it probably would have been made if it was in a place where it wasn't going to continuously get stuck, because it's a steamship.
There it is.
If you bring something to heat the boilers up and they're in good shape, you bring some coal aboard, you bring something, you're going to be able to get it to go. You don't got to worry about the wind because it's not a masted ship. You don't got to worry about that. So it's the environment played a huge deal in why this ship just ended up both surviving, I think.
Yes. And
in why it just wasn't recovered. And who knows, it may have even been recovered at some point towards the end and just nobody said anything to anybody. Maybe someone just found ship and was like, hey, here's a bunch of materials. We need these materials, and just cut it up, and that was it. Who knows?
Yeah, I think so too.
That's what I think.
Because it wasn't a famous ship. It wasn't like, oh, the famous Titanic, the famous Mary Celeste, the famous this.
That's why they can't find it.
The Flying Dutchman, say its name.
Yeah, the Dutchman. It wasn't any of those things that people had hushed words about. They're like, oh, you know, this is a disaster. So it's possible that that's what happened, but we might never know. So that was in March of 1933, when they were trapped. On the 11th of August of 1933, the ship was sighted 12 miles off the settlement of Wainwright, Alaska. It was boarded by local inhabitants, as well as the crew of another ship called the MS Trader, and their passenger, who was apparently an author and botanist, Isabel Wiley Hutchison. They salvaged some things from the ship. They got some furniture. They got what's called a whale boat, which I assume is probably like sort of like a lifeboat.
Or the same boat like your favorite book, Moby Dick. You love that book.
But they did salvage some things from it. But they didn't attempt to recapture it and take it back. They're just like, hey, you just take some souvenirs, leave. Later that month, the Hudson's Bay Company heard that she was still afloat, but too far out to sea to salvage. So apparently they, up to this point, are still thinking, if we can catch this ship, we can get it back. And it says to salvage, which is probably means they're like, you know what, we think it's going to be too busted up to do anything with, but we can get the materials from it. We can get anything important left
resources,
recoup some of the value from it. In July of the following year of 1934, she was boarded by a group of explorers on a schooner, but obviously they didn't have the resources to fire it up and take it anyplace, so they left it. In September of 1935, she was spotted off the Alaskan coast in various places. In November of 1939, she was boarded by a Captain Hugh Poulsen in an attempt to actually salvage the ship. But the creeping ice floes intervened, and Poulsen was forced to abandon it. Again, the ice creeps up. Now, this is going on from 1931 now to 1939. This is 8 years of people just seeing this ship floating about, doing its thing, different places. Does it have a reputation by this time? Does it come off as like, this is actually a pretty good ship, maybe somebody should get it because it's not going down? Or is it, once again, a bad luck charm? It may not be cursed, but it's just, you know what? Anybody who tries to get this, they fail. It's not like it's a death trap. It's not like people are getting washed over all the time or going missing, but nobody seems to be able to get this thing back. I think we should leave it alone. I mean, one is more of a logical way to look at it, and one is more, paranormal. So I guess it depends.
I mean, like bad luck or a curse. What's the difference between the two? Aren't they like just synonyms?
Not necessarily, because bad luck is
caused by curses. If it's a very weak curse,
it can be. One can lead to the other, but the other doesn't necessarily lead to the first.
Okay.
So, but 8 years of it floating out there. You know it's out there. You know it's not going down yet. Do you make any attempts to go after it? If you are in the company, once again, this is different from when it first got lost, where you're thinking, okay, we need to recoup our losses. Now it's 8 years later. What do you think, Rob?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, my bad. You're muted.
Microphone.
Sorry.
There you go.
No, because by then you're going to have more advancements in shipbuilding technology. And much like a computer, it's going to be obsolete. So there's really going to be no need. Plus, you're wasting men and you're sparing resources to go get a ship that by 9 years later, it's pretty defunct. So there's no way. It lands where it lands. Now, if it lands somewhere and it stays put and we can get a salvage team out there, if we have the resources, sure. Right? 100%. Yeah. But there's no point. It's an older ship. It's probably going to cost a good penny to fix whatever the inside's going on, because if things sit, they tend not to age well. Certain things, if they sit, they tend not to age well. You got a lot of moving parts and pieces on a steam liner. And if those pieces and parts aren't moving, at least, every now and again to keep it, going, it's just going to cost money. And who knows how much stuff is actually broken there at that point. You don't know who's been in there. There could have been sightings that they don't even talk about. There could have been things that happened that nobody recorded, and they went in, they took everything first of all. So whatever's left of value is probably long gone. You don't know if salvaging it's going to cause it to wreck in the first place. You don't know what you're going to run into. And like I said, if it's not a serious issue, which the ship wasn't a serious issue, you chalk up the loss and you go ahead and let it float around, because like I said, you're wasting manpower and resources as a company, which are important in a company. Your manpower and your resources are like the most important thing of your company. So if you're sending your guys that could be going on another ship, doing more business and getting more money out to get a ship that's getting you no money, no business, just for the love of the game, I don't think it works, especially in that era where you had to make a living, and most businesses, they would just treat it as a write-off. If a car gets too bad at a car rental dealership, they're going to get rid of it at some point. You're not going to keep it around. You're going to keep the old 1993 Saturn around. It's got 200,000 miles on it. At some point, it's got to go, But at this point, I think the ship's far too gone to salvage. Even if it is still floating, okay, it's a shell. It's the inside of that shell that's going to need fixing, and probably the shell too, if barnacles get on it, and barnacles are hard to get off of a ship. So for me, no, there's no point in salvaging it. Unless I could return it and sell it for like $1 billion to some historical society that probably doesn't have $1 billion, there's no point for me. It gets chalked as a loss, and I don't go back for it. It is what it is.
Steven, are you going to try to recover it?
Nope. I'm with Rob on this one. I'm like, look, we've already wasted too much manpower, like you said. It's already costing us too much money. And like you said, the advancements and everything else, it's just, and not even just that, like even aside from the money, just the sheer frustration of looking for it for that long and not being able to find it. I would just get irritated and give up out of the sheer frustration.
Yeah. Plus, when you learn that everything was taken off of it, what's the point? And some of that stuff that was left on, if it was still there like 8 years later, a lot of that's going to get destroyed. Sea, air, all that salt. Like in the comments, all that salt, things like that. Salt will destroy stuff. Salt will rust and destroy via oxidation. It will destroy things, metal, all that. So at some point, Spider, you got to look at it as a loss. Like I get maybe a month later, maybe a couple months later, sure. That's still a relatively new ship to you and your company. You want to see if you can bring that in. But it gets to be 8 years later? Nah, I'll wave at it as it's passing by. Hey, ship, you're not causing me any more money. We got new advancements and new technologies. So, and I'm sure they're able to figure out how to write that off.
I'm fascinated by the ship here.
Are you going to salvage it? Are you salvaging it? This sounds like something you would do too. Not even any rhyme or reason. Just go on and be like, I'm going to go salvage the SSS Baychimo. Yeah, you're going by yourself. I don't care if you guys go. I'll go by myself to get to Baychimo.
Before I even get into that,
no,
it fascinates me again because if it was in a different environment, it might not have ended out like this way. It might not have just been constantly getting away from people. The ice really was the big deciding factor because the ice never goes away up there. It might get thicker or thinner depending on the season, but it's never going away.
And remember, you always have to get equipment. You got to get equipment for that ice. You can't just traipse around in that ice without the equipment. You have to get actual equipment. So now you're already, once again, like we said, you're burning resources to go get an old ship. You're going to get it too. I know you. You're going to get it.
On some level, I would be interested because it's a fascinating piece of history now. At the time frame, like now, who knows? But I mean, at the time, it's a fascinating bit of history. It's survived everything up to that point. Like it's just been drifting on its own. Numerous people have gone aboard, and it's still seaworthy, apparently. It gets more interesting because again, this is 1939, right? It was spotted numerous times over the following years, but always eluded capture. Because again, the ice, the resources, the manpower, just things weren't available for it. And being a steamship, you have to have enough coal to fire up the boilers. If the boilers still work, if the boilers have holes in them, you can't build up the pressure. It's not going to work. So there's so many things that are keeping it from being brought in what should be a really simple deal. You would think it would be very simple to find something relatively this large and tow it wherever it's got to go. But again, the ice and the manpower. It's unless you were just Tony Khan, crazy with money, and you could just spend a bunch of money on whatever you want, then no one else is going to do that. No one's going to pour resources into doing that unless you're crazy.
You know he's going to have Darby Allin out there trying to get that shit back.
But it's a similar thing. It's somebody with too much money that doesn't know what they're doing, thinking I'm gonna right the ship, which is kind of a very interesting parallel. Several years later, in March 1962, the ship was seen drifting along again in the Beaufort Sea coast by a group of Inuit. So people kept seeing it, not just for 8 years, but upwards of almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Still floating around, still doing its thing. Which, again, it's fascinating. How does it manage it? Yes, it's a steel ship, but ice...
Salt
will cut through that. The ice and the salt, there's got to be holes in it somewhere, but it's just floating along, doing its thing. It was later found frozen in ice once more in 1969, 38 years after it was first abandoned. And this was the last recorded sighting of the Baychimo. Now, in 2006... many years later, the Alaskan government began work on a project to solve the mystery of, quote, the ghost ship of the Arctic and to locate it, whether it was still afloat or whether it had sunk. And as of now, either in the open ocean or under the ocean, it has not yet been found.
And your taxpayer dollars went up looking for an old ghost ship.
At this point, it's definitely a curiosity. It's a historical piece.
He wants to go find this old wooden ship, and it doesn't even have any it has no paranormal. All it is a ship,
but it has survived that long.
Go out there and get it. This isn't 1872. You can write that off. Write off the ship on your
tax. It's the ultimate survivor. Look how long it lasted. It just could not sink. It kept on just floating around. I would love to find out what kind of real damage was there to see. It's just fascinating.
This guy, he should have his own show, the ship saver. Something like that.
It's the boat that refused to sink, and that's. I like stuff like that.
Are you drawing a parallel to your life? Are you the boat that won't sink?
I do refuse. I do refuse to sink.
And listen, I get it. I get your fascination. But to me, it's not worth it. There's no part of that ship where I'm clicking my heels like I'm about to make a bevy of money off of this. I'm rich. I'm plethora rich. Rich with plethora money. But you're over here like, give me an old ship and a spear. I'll find it and bring her back.
Well, you could set it up as like a museum piece. You can charge people to go in. You can make money off of it.
How do you know it isn't?
If it was still floating, that's the thing. If it's not still floating, then what are you going to do about it? If you find the wreckage, then that answers that. The mystery is over. Then it's just, well, when did it go down? Let's put that in the history books. So closes the chapter on the Baychimo. But if it's still floating around, it's an incredible feat of engineering. It's still floating around. Let's tow it someplace, stick it there forever, charge people to take a look at it. The ship that wouldn't
sink. Because we need more junk.
Hey, I mean, it lasts. It lasts. Steven, weigh in. What do you think? Do you think who do you think's more out of line? Me or Rob?
I would think, I can understand both sides of it. I can understand Spider because at this point, like you said, if it's still around, then that's impressive and they need to study it and research it and figure out what on earth that was made of, how they made it, and how it lasted that long. And they need to start making all their ships like that. And I can understand the historical significance of it because it's been around so long. But Rob also makes good points. At this point, it would be hollowed out and junk and worthless. So, there wouldn't be any point in it. But I can also... Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. a lot of people are stupid and will go to things just because they're sideshow attractions and will pay good money to look at big pieces of junk. There you go.
All right, listen. So, listen. Let's take a minute and go with him on this kooky adventure. This is a kooky adventure. He's kooky, right? So let's bring the ship back. Who knows how much that's going to cost? You got to bring it back. You got to have something to tow it back. You got to have the fuel for this boat to tow this other boat back. You're going to have 2 choppers, like he said, with the boiler. Check on that. If it can't get out on its own, which it can't, it's been longer than 30 years. So we're probably hitting 60 or more at this point.
You got to have an icebreaker style ship to lead the way out first to begin with.
Don't you worry. I got this, private equity funder. I got this. Give me a second. So then you got to get it out the ice. You need the tools to do that. Those require certain lubes and greases, right? Then you got to bring it back. All right. And then you get the funnest job of all. You get to clean it out. So you're going to hire a crew to go in. And who knows, maybe somebody just went in and dropped hot 2s as far as the eye could see. All right. So you're going to start pulling that out, right? Tearing the ship apart. Now it's lost its luster because it doesn't have its old parts and pieces. So now what you do is, because I want to make money too, you turn it into a bed and breakfast because people love kooky bed and breakfasts. And who wouldn't love a kooky bed and breakfast that was an old ship that traveled around?
They would love it.
Listen, Janet would tell her husband and her friend Helen and be like, yeah, it was the greatest bed and breakfast experience I ever had. They had the oldest sea dog, and you would be the sea dog. We would just call you the sea dog. You wouldn't have beds
or breakfast.
No, you'd have to have both. You'd have both a bed and but it doesn't say what kind of bed and breakfast. So you can have like a sleeping bag and a hot plate.
There you go.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. But if he's turning into a museum, let's go full bore with it. Let's turn it into a bed and breakfast, right? It'll be, you can even make up a legend. You don't even have, you can make up your own legend. You could be the sea dog, the salty sea dog. And it's great because your first name begins with a C. So nobody will know if it's C-dog or SEADOG. Nobody will know. But it's C-DAWG because you keeps it real.
Right. Now, to be perfectly fair, in any reasonable world that we're living in right now,
are we though?
All of this is impossible.
Is this a reasonable world?
Well, let's take out some current events. Let's just cut those out and just stick to, thinking logically about everything.
Okay, quantum mechanics.
I can look right at it.
Are unreasonable.
Well, I'm not going to use that to rescue the boat, but anyway, sticking to just facts and things, I can understand 100% that in any sort of normal world, there's no way that any of this would be feasible for any amount of money, to be honest. I mean, look at the number of people who have tried to do things with the Titanic, and that's in much deeper water. That's in like complete wide open ocean. The number of people who have died trying to go look at that, the number of things that have gone wrong, this is shallower seas than that. But again, if it's sunk, then there's no point to begin with. If it isn't, all the ice, realistically. But in a perfect world with unlimited funds, not a lot of brain cells, and just people interested in the history of the ship, and it was still floating, I would 100% take it back.
Okay,
but it's never going to happen.
I could just see him just drinking, chasing this ship.
Sounds to me like he just explained.
Old Spider's had his 3rd glass of whiskey tonight. He's been yelling at the sea for 3 days straight.
You bring that ship in right now.
You bring that ship in right now. You don't want to the sea.
But regardless, I think it's an interesting story. I think it's a pretty interesting take on the whole ghost ship concept because it literally was just out there and gone and back and out and gone for 38 years that we know of. We don't know exactly when it went down or when it for 1% disappeared. So it could have been longer before it finally went down. And I think that's just maybe a testament to how well the hull was built to begin with, or maybe it was just stubborn. Maybe it was just so stubborn that it was just, We ain't going nowhere. We're floating out here forever.
He identifies with the ship. This is I think he has a soft spot.
This is me in boat form. This is me in boat form.
For this vessel, so he wants to bring it home. Where did you put it?
The ship is a spirit animal.
No. I want to entertain his theory. Let's say you have this unlimited funds, and what are you going to do with it? Like, what would be your first place to put it?
Well, you'd have to keep it
obviously.
off. No, you'd have to keep it still offshore in the area.
Definitely in his backyard. He has to keep it in his backyard. Yep.
You'd have to keep it offshore in the area. Like it would be in Alaska. It'd be in.
Okay. So you wouldn't try to bring it back to warmer waters.
No, not necessarily, because that might stress the hull out because the temperature difference. It's been out there so long already. You got to do things to keep it.
But remember,
for as long as it is.
What if it's floating somewhere warm now?
Then you got to work with what you have. If it's floated somehow farther south, offshore California or something like that, then maybe you got to tow it there.
Listen, like I said, I'm just trying to feed into your madness to be quite fair. I want to make this thing work. I want to make the logistics of this thing work. They won't, but I'd love to make it.
No. I mean, again, the difference between reason and logic and this fantasy ship salvaging world that we found ourselves in now. Which is where I live every day of my life.
This fantasy ship expedition booking that we're doing.
This is where I live my life, here in this little fantasy ship area. But
you might even say you live on this uncanny earth.
He's circling it around. He's putting a pin in it.
Yep.
But that is the SS Baychimo. And again, I liked it because it was different than most of the standard style ghost ships that I'd heard of in the past. It didn't have a haunting associated with it. It wasn't some menace that if you see it, you're going to die within 24 hours or it'll take you away. It was just, it's the ship that won't go away. And you can get on it. You can go around and then maybe you get stuck by a storm or whatever, but you can't do anything with it. You just get there and, well, this was fun. See you later. It's just a fascinating story.
That's my co-host. I mean, like, that is you to a T. This ship is just you.
That's the kind of stuff I like. I like those kind of things. So final thoughts. Now that you've heard the story of the Baychimo, is it as interesting to you as it is to me? Probably not, but we're going to ask anyway. Steven, what do you think? How do you feel about the Baychimo?
Sounds to me like it got lost and then found and then lost and then found and then lost and then found. And it's just a cycle of people just, I don't know if it's bad circumstances or if they're not very good at their job, but they lose the ship and then someone else finds it and then they lose it.
It was a big ship too.
And then someone else finds it. And I'm like, I got to wonder, is someone stealing their ship and pranking them, bro?
Yes. This is a prank.
Yeah, it's definitely a prank.
Rob, what do you think?
You already know my answer. Like, you bring a ship to me on the day. You bring a ship to me
on this day my daughter's wedding.
And it's not even here. I have to go out and get my guys to go get a ship. Out where?
And then I find out I don't have any guys, and I got to go get it myself.
So I'm done. This is how I look at it, right? I think abandoned buildings are awesome. They look cool, especially abandoned factory sites. It's always cool. I always want to go explore them because they're abandoned. So I get your fascination with something abandoned and still kind of going, even if it isn't really going anymore, much like an abandoned building. You start to see the wear and tear, but it's still there. It survived the generation. So it's interesting that it survived that long when buildings that we've built or ships that we've built today don't survive a year. So it's interesting, that mechanic, and I respect that because that's fascinating to me too. Would I go explore it? If I could be reasonably safe doing it, probably. But I wouldn't just see it like floating by and jump on it. That would probably be a little too hasten. I'm good on that one. However, because of your love for old ships that are still sailing around, I get it. I think it's cool. I didn't know anything about it, so it's always going to be cool to me when I learn something new because I can share this years later. It might not even be today, it might not be tomorrow, but in like 2035, I'll be like, man, you know about that ship? They're like, no. I'm like, yeah, my co-host, man, he found it. Like, he went out like a week later and got a bunch of money from a bank, and he pulled that bad boy back in with his bare hands. It's wild. You can watch it on YouTube.
Some wrestling tycoon just paid him a bunch of money to do
paid
it.
him a bunch because he's paying everybody money apparently.
Robbed the bank.
So I think it's interesting, but it's not something that I would voluntarily research. Oh yeah, and that's a good point. So for me, it's cool. Like it's interesting, like an abandoned building is. There's mystery to it. What were the people like on it? What did it do? What was it like being on that ship as a crew? You know, much like some of the places we've been, like the hostel when you and I went. You know, there's a life to it, is what makes it interesting. You can't salvage anything out of the hostel. You know what I mean? Not even self-respect. But what you can salvage are the memories, and like you get that sort of like walking in that same space that people walked so many decades ago, you know. So for me, I get your point, and I think it's an interesting topic. So I think you did well with it, man. We've slowly brought down the paranormal. I started out high paranormal. I was like, Flying Dutchman still going around. It's a ghost ship. Then Steven came in with the more whodunit aspect of our ghost ship extravaganza. You know, the Mary Celeste. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what happened. And then it crashed, right? And then you bring in the ship that just keeps being seen. And there's something to be said for that. You know, it's still being seen. So it's a testament to how it was built, you know, and who it was built by. I would be interested to see how much of their other ships survived. Like whoever built that ship, if that same set of shipbuilders built another ship, and how long that ship survived, and if that ship's still in existence. I think that's what I think is interesting. So I think we all did our part on these ghost ships as needed to be. I brought the paranormal out the gate. Steven brought the whodunit. You brought the it's still going. You know, it's nobody's on it, but it's still going. And you have to wonder if hitchhikers would jump on the boat and be like, just take me wherever, boat dude. And then the boat dude would take them wherever, and they would just do whatever. So I think it's interesting, and I'm glad that you brought it to the table. So even if I never heard it before, it's still interesting.
All right, well, that's all that I have on the Baychimo. I'm going to look ahead real quick to see what we got on deck. I know we've got some suggestions in the comments. Definitely keep the suggestions coming, because while we have some things planned out already, we also are open to doing new topics, and we can work those in as we go. The next set of shows are going to be a trio on time travel related subjects. So that should be interesting. And that'll lead up to our next break. The season will be over. We got 3 more shows and then the season's over.
I'll be doing the grandfather paradox.
See, he's giving you spoilers already.
Now. I'm gonna do some people they've seen from the future, like good John Titor and.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes, I love that one.
But we'll get into it, because we can also talk about the Chronovisor, which is another one. And I'm not talking about something that looks at beer, but so.
Well, that's good. That's all we've got for tonight. I want to thank the chat room, everybody, for jumping in. It was a good chat tonight. Definitely good chat. Steven and Rob, we had some great discussions. We had some fun. And now it's time to get out of here.
Let me say the thing, because I say the thing, and I saying the thing.
I'm letting you say the thing. You say the thing, because I don't want to.
I hope you all have a great day. All blessed all the time. And take care of yourselves and be awesome to each other. As always, why be boring? Well, you could come here every single Thursday and hang out with us and be uncanny. We will see all of you beautiful, fine folks next week talking about the time traveling adventures of the time traveler. Y'all be good, man. Later.